episode of the Coming Soon podcast with Spider.
Hello, everybody. Spider here, Coming Soon podcast once again. San Antonio, Texas, being joined by Stud Bronson, my man. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing real good. How are you?
Man, I'm great. Now, of course, I have you on here for a few reasons. Mentioned earlier, I had a guest yesterday. We were talking about pro wrestlers, man. I said, man, I haven't had one on here yet. And boom, here you are, man.
Here I am.
Sweet, brother. Now, you were telling me earlier, man, you're actually up there in Arizona. Now,
I am. Real far south Arizona.
And born and raised?
Born and raised. Born in Tucson. Raised up in Sierra Vista, which is just about an hour and a half south of that.
Okay. And of course, man, I mean, growing up, before we get into this movie we're going to be talking about, growing up, I mean, what were you involved in, man, as far as sports? I mean, what were you doing, hobbies?
Well, I was a wrestler in school. I was a wrestler in school.
Nice.
And my family owned a gold claim. So if I wasn't at school, I was off in the mountains being a prospector when I was like a real little kid. And then I grew up and I got into mixed martial arts pretty heavy too.
Dude, that's pretty cool, man. That's actually a couple of things I'm involved in. I don't have any gold, but everything else, man. I've actually, I'm a fan of wrestling. I'm a fan of pro wrestling. I'm a fan of mixed martial arts. I've
Perfect.
got friends that do train and compete.
We don't have any gold either, if it's any consolation to you.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We don't have any gold either, so it didn't work out real well.
Man, well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. But
That's all right.
Family time, right? I mean, that's what it's about, so that's pretty cool. Now, let me ask you, man, because of course, when it comes to wrestling, I mean, how old were you when you started wrestling?
So my parents will tell you that I was like 11, right? Like I would watch it on TV and I'd get it with like a group of friends and we'd go and they'll hear this and they'll be like, oh, he was a backyard wrestler. So I wasn't. We would like learn how to wrestle like safely, like not kill each other, like maybe how the pros would do it. And, that went on for a while and they really didn't want me to do that. So I got into mixed martial arts, got married, had a kid, got a divorce, and that happens. I still got the beautiful little kid out of it. I'm dad to a little 10-year-old girl. She's amazing. Nice. And I had time. We split custody, and so she's with me about half the week, and I had to find something to do to kind of occupy my time. And I always wanted to be a wrestler, and so I started wrestling when I was like 33. Okay. And so I'm 38 now.
Nice, bro. Well, let me say this though, man, because of course, when it comes to family time, the fact that you do share custody, I was there myself. I have two great kids out of it, and sometimes it doesn't happen. But I mean, the fact that we get to be dad and be there, man, that's a plus, man.
That is the plus, and she comes to all my shows, and my little girl loves it. She thinks it's just the coolest thing on earth, and I'm married again, and we have a nice little family, and her and her stepmom, they come to all the shows, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Good family time.
Sweet, man. Sweet, bro. And of course, when you started pro wrestling, because of course you already had that wrestling background, so how easy or hard was it for you to transition into pro wrestling?
It was super hard. When my first couple days of training in pro wrestling, collegiate wrestling, amateur wrestling is called shoot wrestling. Right. And I got in and they're like, oh, you have a shoot background. This should be easy. It's not, because your body tells you this isn't how I'm going to respond to this. I'm going to respond like this. Yeah. So working with the guys in the work, it was really difficult for me to learn. It took, for me, I say it was difficult. During my training school, I went for 6 months, and it probably took me like 2 months to like lighten up. I was real physical, real hard to work with, because I wanted to fight. Like you're thinking, oh, I understand it's pro wrestling, but when a guy gets you, you're like, no, I'm going to do that, and then you have to stop your body and allow your body to move in a certain way. It was quite the process for about 2 months, and I was going. Oh my God! When I was training, I would go like 4 nights a week, depending on the week. Yeah.
Wow, dude, and that's interesting you say that, because you get used to actual contact where in pro wrestling you got to sell it. You
Right,
know,
you got to sell a little bit.
give you a clothesline, you got to fall with it. But
Yeah.
I'm sure they were happy, man, at the beginning, right?
Oh yeah, real happy.
Man, and of course, I mean, once you transition and once you actually were able to, put in work, like you said, I mean, how much easier was it? I mean, to get along with everybody in the ring and shows.
Once I was able to like kind of find the middle ground between the work and the shoot, that's where I work the most comfortable. Like Terry Funk or somebody like that, where it's it's a fight, but we both know I'm not going to kill you. It became real easy. It was like second nature. Getting in there with the guys, uh, telling the right story at the right time, being able to take the bumps and the contact. It was what I was meant to do. And it just all fell into place once I started getting into it. It became natural, you know.
And of course, what was it that got you into wrestling in the beginning when you were a kid? Was your family involved?
Yeah. So, real funny story. I was a little kid, little kid. I was like 4 years old, and we had gone to visit my grandparents in Douglas, like we did every Sunday. We'd go to church with them, and we went to church, and we came back, and Grandma was cooking dinner, and dinner then was like at noon because we'd get out at 10. She'd start cooking. Dinner would be at noon, and I would go watch the Muppet Babies, right? That was my favorite thing.
Oh,
And it
nice.
was like canceled, or maybe they changed times. I don't know. I was a little kid. And I went out there bawling my head off. And my grandma takes me back in the TV room. She's like, I got something for you. And she turns on the TV, and she finds pro wrestling. And it's, my mind remembers it as Shawn Michaels, like probably right after the Rockers split, versus Dusty Rhodes. And so
nice.
Sean's doing the whole sexy boy thing. And we had just learned about Samson and Delilah in Sunday school.
Oh, man.
So here I see Shawn Michaels with his long hair, and he's muscular, and and I'm like, oh, this is super cool. This must be Samson, little idiot kid. And so I fell in love with it, and we ended up moving out of Arizona for about 2 years. We moved to Kentucky, and wrestling was really hard to pinpoint on TV, like where to find it. So I didn't watch wrestling for about 2 years. Came back to Arizona, made a friend named Alan, and Alan introduced me back into wrestling through toys, like the little Jack Specific bone crunching action figures. And he had a Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Nice.
And this toy it's nothing special. It's a bald guy with blue eyes, blonde goatee, black trunks, black boots. Something about him was so cool to me. And then like 2 nights later, I saw him on TV, and I was like, oh. And it's probably Steve Austin's fault I got involved in wrestling, because he was the one that sunk me back in, and ever since I just wanted to be a wrestler.
Nice, man. It's funny you mentioned Shawn Michaels because he's from here in San Antonio.
He is.
Yeah, so I mean that's pretty cool. And Steve Austin's right up the street in Austin, Texas. So I think he lives east of Austin, I believe, or something like that. Because I know, I mean, celebrities, they keep buying houses, and who knows, man. But,
Oh yeah.
that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I myself, I started watching wrestling when I was a kid in the '80s. My dad, he used to do a lot of work. He's a floor finisher, so he used to do work for wrestlers from the '80s, man. From here in Texas, Southwest Championship Wrestling. We used to get free tickets. We got to meet a couple of them out there, which was pretty cool. And I mean, back then, looking up, they were like giants, bro, like big old cowboy dude, and so that was pretty cool, man. But I always enjoyed it because it was just it was TV time for either me and dad or me and the family, But everybody got together, we enjoyed it, and
That's awesome.
great storylines, man. But dude, I mean, that's cool. I mean, so when it comes to wrestling now, I mean, how often do you get to wrestle?
So on a minimum, it's like once a month. At a maximum, it's like 4 times a month. It just depends on where I want to go, who's booking, what's what the haps is. I work right now with the closest with Thunder Mountain Wrestling down here and in Sierra Vista, and they do shows throughout the entire county. It's very much like a old school Texas wrestling, like a Von Erich thing, where it's real big in this area for us. But it's, we're the hometown heroes, so they're all there. So it's real cool. But yeah, about once a month consistently, and then you can expand on that as there are as many weekends as there are.
Right.
You can probably book a double or a triple on a weekend, work a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I wrestle a certain style. My style leans a little more violent.
Yeah.
So when they're like, "Hey, if you want to wrestle just once a month," I'm like, "Cool, I will wrestle just once a month."
Yeah, let me recover, man.
Yeah, I do.
Man, and of course I had one jump on. This is actually the Wicked Arcade, man. They're actually here the other day, man. They actually have arcades, so that was pretty nostalgic.
Oh,
You know,
that's
got
very
to play
cool.
a couple of the good thing was that they were free. I didn't have any quarters on me, so it worked out, you know. I was happy.
Perfect.
Man, well, let me ask you, I mean, when it comes to pro wrestling, I mean, of course, there's a skit, you know, you have a character. You know, how hard was it, I guess, or easy once again in the beginning, like for them to say, okay, this is your character, this is what you're gonna do? Like, how did you get into that set?
So working on the independents, you kind of create your own character, and I came in, and at the time, I just wanted to do what was like what people would look at me and go, "Oh, that's easy," and I wanted to be like kind of like a Viking, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And I came up with the name Bjorn Magni, which was means bear strength, because I'm a pretty strong guy in real life, and I went with that, and I got maybe halfway through my training, and I told them my name, and they're all like, "That's not the vibe you give off," and like everybody and their mom is a Viking right now. So what do you like? What do you do? So at the time, I just finished up working as a cowboy, like an actual,
Okay.
like a foreman.
Yeah.
And I'd done that for a real long time. And I'd also done some cowboy acting down in Tombstone, like at White Earp and stuff. So I'm a cowboy, like by blood. And I grew up, doing the whole gold mining, gold prospecting thing. So being a cowboy, being that kind of man it's just what I've always been. And they're like, you feel more like the town sheriff, your town marshal. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, so what could you do with that? Like, and I was like, all right. So I thought about it, and I went home, and I was going through like wrestling history and guys' names, and I came up with what like I was looking at Macho Man Randy Savage, and I was like, what's another word for like macho? And I was running through the whole thing, and one day I was watching Mr. T talk about his name, Mr. T, and how his real name's Lawrence Turiad, but he never wanted to give somebody the opportunity to call him boy again.
Right.
So he legally changed his name to Mr. So every time you addressed him, you had to call him Mr.
Yeah, I saw that, man. That was good.
And I was like, all right, so what do I want to do? And I kind of leaned a little more jokey with it because, I don't have that experience. So I went a little more comical, and I want what's the opposite, or what's not the opposite, but what's in the same line as macho is stud.
Yeah.
And it's real funny when I'll go and introduce myself to people, and they're like, "This is stud," and having grown men in front of their wives call me stud is just the funniest thing on earth. It cracks me up every time. So it's funny, and I have regular jobs. When I first started wrestling, I worked for I was human resources, and I moved on to working in a medical clinic. And there was like doctors with like PhDs and MDs, and they're like walking up to me, and they're all like, "Hey, stud," and I'm like, "I'm wearing a name tag with my real name on it. That's cool. Yeah, I'm stud." So that's where stud came from. And then Bronson, which bums me out real bad now because everybody and their mom in wrestling has the last name Bronson. There's like 45 Bronsons on the independents. We're all related. We're all just
Right. We're all cousins.
But with Bronson, I went and I thought, what's a real tough guy name? And I could have done something like Stallone, right? But I went and I looked like Charles Bronson, the actor from Death Wish, and I was like, oh, that's a tough guy. That's a tough dude. Yeah. And then you have the Tom Hardy movie Bronson about Charlie Bronson, the street fighter who is in the Black Dolphin prison in the UK, and he would like fight dogs and stuff for money. And I was like, well, that's tough as hell. So let's do that. Let's be Stud Bronson. And here I am, Stud
Behold,
Bronson.
man. I was gonna say that's the Bronson family. That's something the WWE can use, right? So
Oh yeah, for sure.
plug him
Give me a
in, bro.
call anytime. I'll go be all their brothers and sisters,
There you
whatever. It
go,
doesn't matter.
man. It's a good little skit, a little write up right there, man. So that'd
It
be pretty
is.
cool. But man, well, and the first thing when you mentioned Bronson, I was gonna say was it because of the movie, the actor, the character, of course, it was, dude. So I grew up watching those shows too, man. So yeah, that guy,
Yeah.
he was one of those where he didn't have to show you how tough he was. You just saw him and you knew he was the dude, like. But yeah, man, that was pretty damn good, man.
Yeah.
Now, of course, when it comes to the transition once again from being a pro wrestler, having to sell a gimmick, having to sell a character, going into acting, I mean, was that easy for you?
So I've technically probably been acting longer than I've been wrestling.
Okay.
I've done film work here and there, probably since like 2010.
Oh, nice.
And usually I end up kind of doing what I did here with Texas Chainsaw Massacre Badlands, and I end up playing a monster, a bad guy. I do stunt work, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it came real easy because the character work in professional wrestling and then your acting, it's one and the same. It's hand in hand. So I actually in school, I took drama classes because I wanted to be a wrestler, and I knew some of these wrestlers they weren't good at it. They'd get the mic in their hand and
Yeah.
they'd stumble.
Yeah. Man, let me put this up real quick, man, so people can see. Because of course,
Sure.
I mean, they already know you're a stud. So let's put this image up and let them see. Because this is the film that you got to work in,
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Badlands, and of course, tell us a little bit about this film, bro.
Sure. Okay. So basically, like the synopsis of the film is it's your I don't want to say it's your paint by number slasher, but it is, right? You have a group of friends led by Adrian, who would be your final girl, right? They go looking for her brother Jonah, who is an urban explorer, and he just happens to go explore the wrong place. What they wanted to do with this movie is they really wanted to link it real closely to Texas lore and mythology. There is a line in the movie, something to the effect of, "We are less than 25 miles from the Texas killing fields," because you want to create a sense of realism in these movies. When I was a kid, and maybe when you were a kid too, I'm a big fan of the series, and I love horror, so it's always been kind of around me. When I was a kid, there was never any mention about Ed Gein and his, the being the ghoul of Plainsfield or whatever, with an association to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was always directly related to Texas. There was, I think it's Interstate 85. There was I-85 killings. And I was told my first time watching the movie, I'll scratch that. I was going to the theaters to see the 2003 with some friends. And I was all excited about it. I could buy my own movie ticket to this rated R movie. And I told my dad what I was going to go see. And he related to me that when he was a youth, around the time the movie had come out, he had a friend, and his friend's brother was a sheriff deputy. And around about 2 years before the movie was made, there was All Points Bulletin that was about something very similar. And the APB went from from Texas all the way to California. It went all through the Southwest. So we wanted to kind of ground the film in realism, saying that you're very close to the Texas killing fields. I think, especially for viewers in Texas, they'll understand, oh, I know what that is. I know where they are. Even if we aren't there, they're going to go, I know where they are. So it was really cool to do that. So it's very grounded. We wanted to hit a lot of keynotes with it, like there's a lot of homage to the original film. You want to hit your key points. You want to kill somebody with a chainsaw. You want to hit somebody in the face with a hammer. and God Almighty, if you can put somebody on a meat hook, you better do it. So we try and hit some of those key points. I know the big thing that was a question with the producers and stuff was the look of Leatherface, and if they wanted to keep that original look. So,
Man, and of course, when they proposed this to you, man, I mean, what were you? Or I mean, were you guys already talking that they just kind of like, hey, we need this character?
Getting it was, there was a couple scripts going around, and there was 3 scripts, and 2 of the scripts would have required a different Leatherface. I don't want to get into that because that they might want to revisit that.
Right.
But the one they settled on was the most visceral Leatherface, and they thought that maybe good old Stud would be the guy to do it. So it was me and two other actors that were always in contention for one of the, and I say contention, but we're all like, we're basically brothers. So they're actually my tag team partners. And so we were always right around the character. And when they went this way, it was really cool. Cause it was just something I've always wanted to do. So, I was approached, as were my tag team partners, but this is kind of where we landed. And I'm real happy we landed where we did.
Nice, bro. And of course, I mean, you were a fan of the film, so I mean, when they came to doing homework, I mean, you kind of like, okay, let me watch the films again, let me freshen up.
Yeah, it was real fun for me because my wife she likes these movies too, but she hadn't seen the 74 in a really long time, and we started to work our way through them, but like holidays and stuff got in the way. And so I got to go back through and I got to watch the original 2 before we were filming. And I decided I've seen them all many times. But I got through the original 2 again before we started filming. And I decided I didn't want to do something in the same vein as Chainsaw 2. I thought the portrayal of Leatherface there, and there's nothing against the actor. I believe his name is Bill Johnson, I think. It's nothing against him. That's a very much more comedic Leatherface, and I didn't want to do that. So what I did was I took 74, and I took 2003, and I put those 2 back together. Because in my opinion, and we all, it's horror, it is opinion, it is what you choose. In my opinion, those are the 2 best Leatherface portrayals. And so I took those and I tried to use the physicality of 2003, the perhaps the terror, but I had to mix in that simple, I'll use that word, the simple mindset of the 74. And it was very, I'm gonna sound crazy when I say this. It was really normal. It felt like wrestling. It felt like home. It was really easy just to put the pieces together. Once I was out there on set, I remember we were filming and makeup was painting around my eyes, the black makeup, and they're getting ready to put the mask on me. I have long hair. Clearly, it's red, and we didn't want to change that, so they double braided my hair like down the sides, like almost like pigtails, but like down the back. And we kind of bunched them up, and I put the mask on, and you can see it in the film, and it's this like change of character. Obviously the film comes out on Sunday. I don't want to spoil too much, but when the film opens, Leatherface has just buried Grandpa. And he's in what you would probably describe as maybe a killing, not a killing mask, like a pretty woman mask, right? So it's because he's in a state of mourning. He wants to look nice. His hair's down, but it's the opening of the movie, so I feel like it's not spoilers. They pan over, and all of a sudden you see Grandpa's face, and Grandpa's clothes. And Leatherface picks him up, and he moves away. And once Leatherface puts on Grandpa's face, he has to take over the chores around the house. He has to do the man's work, right? So he braids his hair, he puts the face on, and he goes around and he makes sure that the land is good. Nobody's messing around on his land.
Man, you know, and like you said, it is actually dropping Sunday. So I mean, when you say that, I mean, is it going to stream or is it going to be on YouTube?
So it goes up on YouTube. It's it's obviously not linked with like the Hinkle family and all that. We don't own the rights to anything. This was the director, Matt Meinhardt. It's his pitch to take over the franchise. Basically, it's a pitch film. And I think, as somebody that's heavily involved in it, I'll be honest. I think there's parts that we could have done better, but there are parts of that film where we absolutely nail it. And we had a private screening with everybody that worked on the film, and there was moments where the people that saw it happen, now watching on film, are gasping and applauding and cheering. And so again, there are moments that absolutely, it's not perfect, but the moments that are perfect are really perfect. We had I'm a wrestler. There's a wrestler named Evil Nate, and his whole gimmick is he's the son of Leatherface. He wears a skinned mask. He actually carries the oh my God, I've had such a long day. The Chainsaw 3 chainsaw down to the ring. It says saw his family down the blade. And I sent it to him because that's his gimmick, and I wanted to know what he thought, because he lives and breathes those films. He's part of the chainsaw lore at this point. Like when you go to a convention that he's at, he's with the chainsaw guys. They're like all lumped together. Excalibur is what the chainsaw's called. I just remembered Excalibur chainsaw. And so I wanted this approval, and they gave us like pressers of the film that we could send out, like our early review links. And I sent it to him, and I was like, hey, what do you think? And he wrote back, and he was like, this is part one. Your Leatherface is part one mixed with the remake with shades of part 4. And he just like, he was like gushing about it, like, I don't want to, we're wrestlers here, but like, and we're tough guys. And I have to wrestle him on the 29th. But he really liked what we had done. And once he had seen it, I was like, okay. And I'm not allowed to say who, but people that have worked closely with these films, like the actual theatrical films, have seen this movie and they liked it. The quote was, "This is demented and so much fun." Can't tell you who said that legally, but I can tell you it was said, and that was really cool. We've sent out a couple reviewers here and there, and people seem to really be getting behind it. And there's the Stoney. He does the museum in my gosh, is it Minnesota, something like that? He Montana maybe. He saw it. He has a museum of Texas Chainsaw stuff. And he was like, nailed it. Like, you guys did really good. And it's really cool just to hear that we took something so beloved and we did really well with it.
No, for sure. Yeah, because when I had seen the post about the movie, I was like, oh man, let me check this out, because for one thing, I was born in '74. I always growing up, I always felt like, man, that was my movie. I didn't watch it obviously when it came out. I did see part 2 when it came out, and that's kind of what drove me back to part 1. And I was like, oh damn, there's more. But this past year, I was a moderator for the 50th anniversary for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man. So that was good. I got to hang out with everybody, man, and
That's cool.
it was just like one of those, like, damn, I can't believe I'm sitting next to this guy, and these actors, man. But that was surreal. And then I got to meet him again, at the end of the year. I think it was the last weekend of the 2024, man. A few of them came back. and Bob Elmore, from part two.
Yeah,
Brett Wagner was out there. I mean, it was Caroline Williams from part two. It was another great moment, man. So
that's
I
awesome.
definitely cherish those. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man, because
Good.
when I first saw this, I wasn't exactly sure what the. I mean, I saw the synopsis as far as the what it was about, but somewhere I read "Son of Leatherface," and now I know that it's your opponent coming up, right?
Yeah.
So I thought maybe that was what this was. I was like, oh,
Nope.
so that was kind of intriguing because I was like, dude, like I write a lot, and one of
Yeah.
them, something that I've written has something like that, and I was like, man, I hope they're not doing what I'm thinking. I mean, not that I would ever do it, but I was curious though, But yeah, man, I
No.
mean,
Yeah.
you guys are paying homage and you know taking parts of pretty much a few of the films. It's freaking. I mean, it already
Got
sounds
to.
fantastic. I'm looking forward to it, man. When it drops, and I'm gonna post the YouTube link on the YouTube video, so that way people can check it out. Especially everybody here in Texas, bro. I mean, everywhere, because it's all over the world. But yeah, man. I mean, that's pretty cool, man. And now, let me ask you: now that you were able to portray and play Leatherface, man, I mean, where does that put you? I mean, as far as like, where does that put that character? Let me ask.
Where does it put the character for me? Legitimately, it's very much like he's my favorite slasher, I think, of all time at this point. Like I have it's in my closet because that's where I have to keep them because I got a wife and a little girl.
Oh yeah.
I have the original Kill mask signed by Gunnar Hansen on the inside.
Oh man.
I have the Pretty Woman, and soon my mask is going to sit up on the shelf with them.
Bro.
And it's really cool to say Gunnar signed this, and he wore a version of this, and I wore this in my film, and it's really cool. I've gone through and I've seen the most watched horror films on like YouTube, right?
Right.
Number one is like a Siren Head short film, and it's all right. And then you scroll down, and like the fourth one is Friday the 13th, and that Jason's been viewed 40 million times.
Damn.
So I want that for this Leatherface. I want to be viewed 40 million times. I look online, and the Chainsaw short films have like 1.7 million views, 650,000 views. When people think of Leatherface and they talk about, Gunnar Hansen, and they talk about Andrew, however you say his last name, and Brett Wagner, and those guys, I want them to also be like, oh yeah, Stud Bronson. Yeah, Stud too. I want people to go, oh, I've seen Stud. That's what I want. I want the kids to recognize it too.
Yeah.
We posted, I go through and I look at like where they post, and they posted in the video game like group page for the Texas Chainsaw game, and somebody said, will this movie have DLC skin release? And just how cool would that be if my Leatherface ended up in the Chainsaw video game like that?
Yeah, dude,
Like
bro.
I'd freak out, man. That'd be too cool.
Man, you never know, man. Never know. I mean, especially with in indie work. I mean, that's one thing I always tell people, man. You just never know what formula, whether it's the timing, the day, who knows, bro, how those things work. But man, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, this is something that I definitely want to watch. Being a fan of the originals, from one through four. I mean, I've seen all of them, but for me, like one, two, and three are the ones that my go-tos, the ones that I always go back to. The remakes, of course, yeah, I always have fun watching those, but it's just like I said, I got to pay respect to the original, of course, and for me, part two, I have fun with. That was a fun one. Like that's one that I definitely like. I always tell people that's my favorite out of all of them. But it's just, I don't know if it had to do with the timing because when they came out, I was a kid, so I watched it when I was a kid, so I can always kind of go back. And it's one of those that reminds me of home, reminds me of my parents being alive. You know what I mean? So it's just kind
It's
of
very much the comfort one of the original three.
Exactly.
Like the first one is so just shocking, right? Especially for the time. Then the one happened, part two happens, and that it feels like a 1980s slasher movie.
Yeah.
And then part three happens, and it's like this wild kick in the teeth. If you're not paying attention the whole time, you're gonna miss it. Like part 3 is real bizarre, and so yeah, no, I get it. Part 2 being the comfort movie, it makes a lot of sense.
No, but yeah, it does, and I enjoy it. And I enjoy all of them. You know, when I got to meet him and hang out with everybody, I was just like, I was a kid at a candy store, man. I was just hanging out and talking to these actors and asking questions just as a fan. I got to moderate, so I had a few questions as well. But yeah, the fact that you got to portray him, man, that's cool, man. Let me ask you, other than the mask, was there anything else that you got to keep for the movie?
I got to keep the chainsaw.
Oh hell, damn. Okay.
Oh wait, hold on. Just wait, give me 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna have my wife grab it real quick.
Yeah, bro.
It's yeah. They wanted to do as close to the original as possible, so they got one of those pull-on chainsaws, but it's not the exact one. This one is a pull-on woodsman,
Right.
and it's like, instead of being yellow, I think it's like an off green. So she's getting it for me right now. I'll show it to you.
No, that's
It was real cool. Yeah, here it is.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. Heck
So
yeah, dude.
pretty with a chain and everything. It's pretty good, pretty gnarly. There you go.
Man, well, what's that thing weigh?
I'll give you a minor spoiler. It doesn't weigh too much to where I couldn't do the chainsaw dance.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, definitely looking forward to that, man.
It's maybe 12 pounds, maybe.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh damn. Okay, sweet.
Yeah,
Bro.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty. We're filming the. Okay, I'll tell you the story. We're filming with it, and we started up. Props hands it to me. I'm holding it, and one of the actors has to run away from me. And I'm gonna give you the whole thing. He has to outpace me because I have a chainsaw, and he you got to make it look real. So he comes running from behind this barn, and they're shooting. It's a long shot, and he comes running, and you can tell he's hustling. And here I come behind him, and I got the chainsaw above my head, and I'm going, and I'm a big guy. I'm like 250, 255 pounds, depending on the day. I'm wearing these huge stovepipe cowboy boots. That's like huge black boots. And I'm wearing the apron. I'm wearing these like tight, cowboy, canvas pants, all this stuff. I'm wearing the mask. It's hot because it's Arizona. And I imagine much like Texas, Arizona, it doesn't really start getting cold until like January. Then it's only cold for like a month.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're filming in like December, middle of the day, and so it's hot as hell.
Yeah.
And I start running after him, chainsaw over my head, and I start to catch up to him. And he's running hard, and I'm running, and here I come behind him with my chainsaw. The chainsaw's screaming, I'm screaming, he's screaming, and I realize how close I am, so I let him outpace me, and I let him go around the corner like he's supposed to, and I was in, right? Like I'm in the character, and I stop, and I decide I'm going to do the chainsaw dance. I know they're filming. And so I do it, and I get done doing it, and I turn and I look, and all of them, cameras down, sounds down, everybody's just staring at me. And I'm like, did you not film that? And they're all like, no, we didn't know we were supposed to. And I walk up to the director and I'm like, did you film it? And he's like, no, I didn't know you were going to do that. And I was like, oh my God, dude. I was like, okay, no big deal. No big deal. We get to do it another part in the film anyway.
Yeah.
But having this moment, we wouldn't have had to film the other part. So it would have anyway. Yeah. But so it wasn't, the chainsaw wasn't too heavy. I was able to catch up to the kid, and he was telling me a couple days ago at the little premiere we did for it, little private thing. He tells me, well, I didn't want to run too fast. And I go back and I watch this thing, and he is hustling. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't want to run too
Yeah,
fast?
man. He's running for his life, literally, man.
He was.
Dude, that's
They forget. We had a lot of fun on the set. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. The chainsaw wasn't too bad. I got caught up in a tangle of branches at one point, and I was like, I'm just gonna chainsaw the. I didn't, but I thought about just chainsawing my way through it. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
man. And of course, other than the elements, I mean, when it came to the weather, man, I mean, were there any other hiccups during filming?
Yeah, okay. So it's a funny story now. So this was the director. It's his first movie, and he had a real good team with him, good production team, and we're out in the middle of the desert. I mean, more or less, we're in this huge abandoned ranch, and in the ranch there's this huge barn, and it's got a side workshop on it. And Leatherface gets into it physically with one of the survivors, right? The survivors. And this guy is huge.
Oh,
He's
man.
like 6'4". He's like 240 pounds. Like he's a big human being. And me and him had decided, he's a wrestler. He's my tag partner. We decided we're gonna beat the crap out of each other, because
Yeah.
we gotta
Why
make it
not?
look good.
Yeah.
And we talked to a point, and we're like, well, just say cut, and we'll stop, and then you can reset your cameras. And he's like, yeah, sure. So no, it's stunt work, whatever. We get through the fight, and I bull charge him. I pick him up like on my shoulder, and I run him into the barn wall. And like legitimately, I run him into the barn wall. And this barn is like from the 1940s. So
Oh,
when we hit it, you watch the dust come off. You can hear the creak. I let him down. We start doing our thing again, start mixing it up. And they still haven't called cut. And I know they're not in position to like, because I'm kind of like, keep an eye on them through the mask. I can see that they're not in the position to where the next shot would line up, like they'd miss it. And I'm like, so I stopped. I was like, are you gonna call cut? And they're like, oh yeah, sorry.
what the world?
And I understand that watching Leatherface get physical with somebody on your first film,
Yeah.
it probably caught him off guard. He's probably just got caught up in the moment. He's like, what am I looking at? But yeah, it worked. Worked really well. It was fun. It was a nice little. But other than people missing some cues like that, no, there wasn't any hiccups. It was a lot of fun.
No, man, and I was gonna say too, because I guess the fact that they allowed you guys to do something like that. I mean, was there anything else that you kind of pitched in that were like, hey, can we do this, or can I do?
Yeah, actually, it wasn't me that did this. It was one of the guys working in stunts. He I was I'll say it without saying it. I was supposed to kill one of the guys one way,
Right.
and we're getting ready to do that. We had set up the shot for it, and we saw something that would have been a much better way to kill him. And it was just something that the ranch had provided.
Yeah.
We like looked and we're like, oh, that. And we realized we could do this way. So we did it. And the guy from stunts, he walked in and he's like, hey, what about this? Let's do this one. And we took about 30 minutes. We decided, can we do this? And we could. So we did it. I don't want to give it away because
No, for sure.
it's one of the big kills, but it's very iconic. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, nice. And of course, I mean, I've got a couple of more images. I'm gonna post another one
Yeah.
up. And these, I mean, I got from the page. So of course, I don't know if these
Yeah.
are posters that they were going through when they were going through the process.
Mhm.
But when it comes to a lot of the still shots, of course, when it comes to the poster, man, I mean, what's just the original, the official poster?
Say that last part again.
Oh, what's just the official poster? Do you know?
So the official poster is the one you just had up right now, with
Okay.
Leatherface looking down on the guy. Yeah, that's
Oh, okay, okay. The reason I was asking was because I was like, man, I mean, and I kind of figured they'd have you on there, but I mean, is this going up on the wall at your house, bro?
oh yes, yeah, 100%. It's so that fellow there. He's my tag partner. He's the one that I worked with,
Okay.
and he's huge. And we've gone up and down the road, California, Colorado, Utah, and Texas. We've wrestled all in these places, Arizona, and we've spent, the three of us have spent a lot of time together. But he is in that scene with me, and we are like legitimately we were brothers at this point. I'd do anything for him. I love him to death, and the fact that I get to share this iconic moment
Yeah,
with that
bro.
legitimately iconic shot. Like that shot is just, it's, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, is that me? I get to share that with my brother, and yeah. So once the movie's out and stuff, we're gonna get that printed out and we'll hang it up here in the house, and it'll be looked at with awe. And my daughter loves it. She thinks, she's little, she's never seen any of the original chainsaws. She's 10. She got to come on set for one of the lighter days. There's a scene filmed in a diner, and she
Right.
asked if she could call cut. And so she feels like she's got a lot of leverage in the film, and she is so excited. She asked me, she came and she watched the little event, and she was like, "Dad, that was so good." And I sat next to her. I sat behind her, and I sat next to the fellow that plays the marshal. I sat next to his wife on purpose because I wanted to hear. And there's a real brutal scene, and my daughter recoils, and the fellow's wife, her name's Bertha. Bertha like buries her face in her hand and goes, "Ugh." And I was like, yeah, man, this is amazing.
Dude.
So we she's so into it though. She loves this, and I think having the poster on the wall it'd be really cool for her. I think it'd mean a lot for her too. So
Yeah.
definitely gonna go up. Definitely gonna go up.
Man, if you guys if you get a hold of some, or I don't know if they're gonna be doing this, but I would love to get one autograph, bro.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely,
Wow, man,
absolutely.
that'd be definitely put it up on the wall, man. 'Cause I've got all sorts of stuff out here, but that'd be iconic, dude. I mean, like you
Yeah.
said, just like the still shot itself, man. I was just like on point. I'm glad they caught that. I'm glad they missed the dance the first time, but they caught that image, bro. So that's cool.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, no, I can definitely I'll get it, get one done. And I'll sign it. And I'll have him sign it as well because he's right
Yeah,
there, and I think that'd be
yeah.
real cool.
Dude, cool, man. And
Yeah.
of course, I mean, let me backtrack a little bit now, man, because of course the film, like you mentioned, it is going to be coming out this Sunday.
Yeah.
But for you guys, man, what do you guys have next? I mean, when it comes to a wrestling match.
So for me, I guess I can say this. It doesn't. We'll do the cat out of the bag right here. So me and my other tag team partner, the Manimal, we're going to be tag teaming on our local fort here, our military fort, Fort Huachuca, on March 28th. This is my absolute next match, and we're going to be wrestling against the Void with Evil Nate. And so it's three guys. So my other tag team partner, he's kind of left our group. We're feuding right now. Breaks my heart. But so we need a tag partner. So it's gonna be the Peacemakers, Stud Bronson and the Manimal, with Vampiro, and we're gonna take on the Void. Yeah,
Oh, damn.
yeah,
Oh, damn. Okay. Wow,
yeah.
dude.
And then the very next night, I have to wrestle Evil Nate, the son of Leatherface. I have to wrestle him in a coal miner's glove match. It's a steel reinforced glove that hangs above the ring, and whoever claims it gets to beat the other guy with it. And it's for he's currently the BGW heavyweight champion, and I am the current Super Vader champion and the Urban Legend champion. So it's a winner takes all. So,
Oh,
and that's
man.
the very next night. So
Wow, bro. Well, hopefully they won't tag you in too much on the first one. Let you
I
rest
hope,
a little
yeah.
bit. Oh man, and of course, I mean, like you said, you wrestle. I mean, it is extreme. So I mean, the things get bloody, bro.
Oh yeah, I wrestled Savio Vega in January, and by the end of it, me and him were both bleeding pretty good. I remember he had hit me, and I'm laying there, and the canvas in this ring is red, and I'm looking at the canvas trying to like get to my feet, and I'm watching like a wet stain form, and I'm like, what is that? Is there a water leak? And then I tilt my head and blood starts to come down my nose. And I was like, oh, no, that's me. That's me. That is a lot of blood. So, yeah, but I beat him. I beat Savio Vega. He was Stone Cold Steve Austin's first ever WrestleMania opponent. And
Oh yeah, I know that guy, man.
Yeah, I got Savio. It's pretty cool. So, and now I'm tag teaming with Vampiro, and it's,
bro,
I live a weird life.
No, I mean a fun one, man. I mean, I would do it except for the whole getting bloody up part, but everything else I do it, man.
Yeah, it's I was talking to my wife about it actually yesterday. In July, I was wrestling a fella, and it was the Peacemakers, all three of us, versus the Foundation and a guy named Victor Ursus. And one of the members of the Foundation took a baseball bat covered in barbed wire and beat me in the ribs and the back with it. And I've been hit with a lot of things. I've been thrown in thumbtacks. But that was probably the worst I've ever felt after a wrestling match. Being hit with a baseball bat is awful. It's crap. Like I do not recommend.
Damn. And I was gonna say, man, I was actually looking for thumbtacks the other day. I should have just called you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably have some in my back.
Man, that's crazy, bro. But yeah, man. I mean, when it comes to entertainment, I'm sure the audience is already aware. So I mean, gotta wear a raincoat or whatever they can to keep some of that blood off them.
We put up a barricade, so they're pretty far away, because if Stud's wrestling, somebody's bleeding. I wrestled this kid in the beginning of February, and he challenged me for the Super Vader and the Urban Legend Championships. And I put a garbage can lid on his face, and I did a cannonball. It's a running, jumping front somersault and it cut him open. He's bleeding. I brought him to where the audience could see him, and I took my forearm and I beat him across the face with it, and so the audience could see. And I throw him to the side, and I look at my forearm. There is so much blood. And then I got home that night, and there's blood in my beard. There's blood in my hair. None of it's my blood.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm glad they were really far away this time, because he was just spraying blood like he was a geyser, man. So yeah, you gotta bring a raincoat.
No, for sure, man. And then I meant to ask you earlier too, when it came to MMA. I mean, how were you involved with mixed martial arts?
So I started mixed martial arts in like 2005, right out of high school, because I wanted to do the wrestling thing.
Oh, nice.
And I was watched, like, it was right in the time when it was finishing up being like the Wild West of sports, right? Sherdog was becoming a thing, but there's still like a lot of Valley Tudo fights, right? Like so that's what I did. Like I went and I learned Muay Thai kickboxing. I had the wrestling background, and I was like, well, I have some good striking, and I can get off the ground. So perfect. And I would go do these Valley Tudo fights, and I ended up, the record, just so everybody knows, is 5-2. Because I'm sure somebody might ask one day. So it's 5-2, and after the second loss, these weren't consecutive. The second loss, I thought, I need to go learn something else. That, like, sometimes you're going to get hurt and you can't stand, and that's what happened in the second loss. I got kicked in the face, and I was a geyser of blood, and I couldn't make the fight do what I needed it to do. So he won by damage, right? So I went and I learned very basic Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So if I could hold you like in a triangle, or I could take your arm or something. Right. If I'm bleeding so bad and I can't, so I ended up doing that. fought a couple more times, and then I went to training one day, and not that, wrestling was any better really, but I went to training one day and I was the only guy there. And I was like, and they're like, well, we're going to train outside today. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And they wanted to train at the city park. And I was like, sure, that's cool. Let's be outside. Well, it ends up raining. It's like August in Arizona, so it's a monsoon. I show up and it's been drizzling all day, soaked. I'm the only one there. Coach shows up. He's got his buddy with him, and they decided we're going to work on blocking. And they pulled out kendo sticks. Yeah. And they proceeded to beat the holy hell out of me in the rain with kendo sticks as a blocking work. And I went home, and I laid on the couch. I lived with my folks at the time. I was like 19, 20. Yeah. I was like, I think I was 20 at this point. And I laid down on the couch like a little kid, arms straight, completely flat, soaking wet, covered in bruises. My old man walks up, sits down. He goes, me and your mom really don't want you to do this anymore. I needed a little convincing after that day. I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's cool. Like, whatever. Like, I proved it to myself I could do it. It is what it is. But I was heavily involved with it. I fought seven times professionally. Yeah. And I lost twice. And the first time I lost was a little dude, and I just thought I'd bowl over him. And I went to shoot, take him down. I put my hand on his chest to pull myself up, and he put me in a triangle. And I was like, huh. And we were in New Mexico, and this one wasn't so Valley Tudo, which, technically means like no rules, right? This one had some rules. New Mexico is very strict, actually. And I went to go like Rampage Jackson. I went to go powerbomb him, and I started to pull him up, and the referee tells me, we'll disqualify you if you powerbomb him. And I was like, well, I got no other choice here because I'm deep in this. Yeah. And then it started to go black on the sides, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to tap out. So I tapped out and continued on, fought a couple more times, ended up getting kicked in the head one time, and I couldn't see nothing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go do jiu-jitsu. Fought a couple more times, and that was it. That's all she wrote.
Damn. Yeah, man. Actually, here in San Antonio, I actually started training in 1999, and it was a gym called, the instructor's name was the owner, right? Rangel, but it was Rangel Valetudo. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, the first day I went out there was a Friday. He was like, yeah, we got sparring. So I said, okay, I'll stop by. Walked in, they're like literally beating the shit out of each other, man. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I want to do this. I was like, dude, I want to. And yeah, man, I mean, I told people the first few months, it was just me getting my ass beat, bro. But I stuck around and did a lot of no gi, back then. And, got ranked in the purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, man. And I mean, it was fun, man. I mean, it was grassroots here in Texas, it was actually training. It was pancakes. We couldn't do this, everything. State, was real strict on that. So it was an open hand. 2005, they started allowing, close fist or a 4-ounce glove, and everything changed, turned into a sport, for the best, of course now it's everywhere, but yeah, man, I mean, I still enjoy it. I still watch it. As a matter of fact, one of my buddies jumped on the podcast on Sundays. It's actually his, but he's fought in the UFC. He's actually fighting bare knuckle, a second match at the end of the month up in Miami, man.
The bare knuckle fighting championships that popped off pretty big, and a lot of their stuff is, well, just contact us and tell us what you do, and we'll see if we can get you in. And they end up having they're doing a tournament right now for like $50 million.
Oh yeah.
And I asked my wife, I was like, hey, can I do this? And she's like, I don't doubt that you would win. I don't doubt that you would do well. And she's like, but the effect it would have long term on you, she's like, I don't want you to do it. And I was like, okay. All right, that's fair, because sometimes I'll be wrestling and I'll get hit a little too hard. Yeah. And for like 3 or 4 days afterwards, I'm like, I don't remember anything you're talking about, man. Like, tell me one thing on it'll happen Saturday. I won't remember anything you tell me Sunday to Tuesday. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so maybe she's right. Maybe she's right.
No. I mean, that's great that she's there to say just that, man. Because a lot of times as men, like we don't know. We don't know. We know better, but we're like, if they're like, okay, you can do it, then okay, go
All right.
about it and get it done. My man, hey, bro, I'm gonna wrap this up, bro, but I do want to get you back on here. I mean, it's been fun. I mean, I'm sure there's more that we can talk about. The film, like I mentioned, or you mentioned, it is going to be coming out this Sunday. It's going to be on YouTube. I'm going to be posting the link, and man, I'm going to be in touch, bro. But is there anything you want to say before you wrap this up, brother?
Yeah, to the fans and everybody watching, it'd be really cool if you guys tuned in this Sunday when we drop Texas Chainsaw Massacre Badlands. If you like what you see there and you want to see more of Stud Bronson, a lot of that is over at Thunder Mountain Wrestling, and they're on social media under Thunder Mountain Wrestling. So keep up that way. Keep up with me at Stud Bronson on social media. And I hope to see some ads and some likes, guys.
No, for sure, man. And I appreciate you, brother. Don't hang up yet, man. Everybody out there, of course, once again, this is Spider Coming Soon Podcast. As always, till next time, follow up.